I decided to drink out of my beautiful Slytherin mug that my niece gave me. Because I'm a Slytherin. That's what the sorting hat said. Of course, it's our choice. Everybody wants to be a Gryffindor. Natalie loves being a Slytherin. I don't mind being a Slytherin. Because, why? Good morning, Kumar. The greatest alchemist was a Slytherin, so I'll take it. Cheers. And since I'm a spiritual alchemist, I guess that makes sense to me. Healing through dark emotions. We're going to continue on this beautiful journey to talk about it, okay? So, good morning, Betty. How are you? Betty, I'm still going to buy that yarn, okay? That is a must. I want one of those things that you made. It's so pretty, and I would really, 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 really like one. Really, 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 really. I say it a billion times, really. Okay, I should wear the blue one. Have it make an entrance that you made me. That one that ties on the top. I should have that make an entrance on this again. Now that it's cold. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so we learn to fear the raw power of emotions and its expressions as an epidemic cultural-wide fear of that I call emotional phobia. And that's emotion phobia. People are afraid to feel, right? Especially in the Western world. And we've talked about this before, okay? Even if we're not humiliated, punished, neglected, or whipped into shape for ordinary human feelings, by the time we're adults, we are expected to restrict their free flow. We've mastered the internal regulation process of emotion phobia. We've been taught to believe that emotions are not appropriate in any context, but an intimate personal relationship. In public, we compromise ourselves, compulsively apologizing when we cry, as though displaying authentic sorrow is bad form, a sign of emotional weakness. One of my clients told me that his mother, whenever she cried as a girl, one of my clients was told by her mother, whenever she cried as a girl, don't cry or you won't have any tears when you really need them. Another was accused of having a nervous breakdown whenever she displayed her sadness. Often in this process of constructing these adult ways of coping with emotion, we become strangers to ourselves. The fires of our passionate human nature subside or sputter out. The colors of our emotional palettes are no longer so vibrant or alive. For many, they are hardened and dried into dull gray residue. So again, we're told to save our tears. We're told not to cry. Good morning, Valerie. Good morning, Thomas. We're told that crying is a bad thing, or we're shamed for it, or save your tears, or you know what, you look so much better when you're happy. The reality is we cry. And I'll be honest, because I share my stories all the time, I've been crying for the past 3 days. I've been an emotional wreck, and I've been emotionally sad, and I'm okay with it. It feels good to let it out and to be in that sadness, right? Good morning, Patrick. It feels good to allow my body to go through it and not shame myself or not feel bad for it, but to feel the deep, deep, deep sorrow, right? The grief, the despair, the trying to understand, right? The tears of trying to understand. And it's not easy, but it feels good when you allow yourself to fully embrace it. So I think yesterday and the day before, I've just been crying a lot of emotions there. But we make it wrong, and we've been told that it's wrong. And it's because we've been taught that way. So like my dad, we couldn't cry in front of him at all. He'd say, I'll give you a reason to cry. Well, I already had a reason to cry. There was this moment that I remember vividly, where I had to hold back my tears, right? Because my father he was broken, or he didn't really even understand how to deal with his emotions, I should say. Or maybe it just wasn't, I don't know what it was for him. But I was sitting in the truck, and so my father, he did this cleanup at the stadiums, and I would go with him to the football stadiums. There were high school football games, and I'd watch the games sometimes, or I'd watch the halftime show. I used to like to watch the dancers. I was a dancer, so, but I was young at the time, and I used to go watch the dancers. And I was sitting in his truck because it was cold at the time, and all of a sudden I felt this pinch on my neck. And oh my God, it was the most excruciating pain that I had ever felt. And I was like, oh my God. And I went like that, and there was a black ant that bit my neck, and it hurt so bad. I started to cry, and my dad told me, oh, it's not that bad. You don't need to cry. I'll give you so I had to stop crying and hold down the tears plus the pain. But I was in excruciating pain. Like, it hurt so bad. And I had to pretend like it didn't hurt. I mean, it was awful, right? And held it down. Now, we get sort of trained that way from kids. So if you're in pain, don't cry, right? That's the message. So if you're in physical pain, don't cry. So for me, and this sort of has seeped into my adulthood, is that if I'm in any kind of physical pain, I laugh. That's my way of getting it out, because I was shamed for crying about it. See how it works? I was shamed as a kid for crying. So I had to let it out some way. I didn't know how to let it out, so I would laugh. So oftentimes when I'm in excruciating pain, most times people think they don't believe it, or they think that I'm okay, or that I'm going to be okay. And it's because I've learned to use laughter instead of crying as a mechanism to get through the physical pain of life. Okay? Now, the emotional pain is different. And that I have to tell people. So this is where you get to be courageous and bold when you're crying, and people say, don't cry, don't cry. And you're like, no, I need to cry. So I have to say that to people. No, I'm okay with crying. If you're uncomfortable, I'm sorry that you're uncomfortable. I'm not. I'm completely comfortable in my tears. I'm completely comfortable in this feeling. I'm completely comfortable in allowing myself to go through this process of crying. It's okay to actually tell those people, like, look, it's okay. I'm good. But we have been trained to be afraid of letting out our tears, shedding our tears, opening our heart, and allowing ourselves to just drop into it. And I'll tell you what, the tears that I've had these last couple of days feel so healing. They feel peaceful in some way that I can't describe. And I don't know if you guys, and you please share if you guys have had peaceful tears, where it's sadness, but it's peaceful. It doesn't feel, I don't feel like I'm going to the bottom of a pit. It's more like a release of energy that feels calming and soothing, and like almost like a massage is what it has been feeling like. I'm letting go of some really deep emotional trauma. So when you allow yourself to go through it, there's this beauty that's sort of there waiting for you. It's waiting to be revealed through those tears. But we've had stories, and if you've had stories, please share your stories about what your parents did. Did they let you cry, or did they tell you, oh, don't cry, or don't be a sissy, or man up, or oh, don't cry, it makes me sad to see you sad, or whatever it was that wanted you to stop that particular process, okay? So often in the process of constructing these adult ways of coping with emotion, we become strangers to ourselves. The fires of our passionate human nature subside or sputter out. The colors of our emotional palettes are no longer so vibrant or alive. For many of us, they have hardened or dried out into a dull gray residue. So we become very just dry and very gray rather than having color, right? Emotions paint the world with color. Some children do escape this fate, but at a cost. It's common for children who maintain their ability to feel the emotions that others ignore or deny to be labeled oversensitive, and thus disparaged for their emotional authenticity and aliveness. their self-awareness and empathy. Kate, a particularly sensitive child, remember running into her mother one day crying, I feel like I was sent to the wrong planet. I can feel everything and everyone who acts like they're not supposed to. Fortunately, Kate had a mother who respected her ability to feel everything. Despite this, Kate was internalizing the emotion phobic message of the larger culture. That's kind of funny. That's what I've told my mom. Oh, where am I? I don't think I was on the right planet. Please send me back. Being human is not easy. It's so hard. It is it is challenging. It is a challenge. There's so much beauty in it. Don't get me wrong. There's beauty in the faith and the love and the cuisine and the ambiance of going places, or even nature and the experience of life and all this stuff that we get to do. But being human, just think about that. It is the hardest thing to do. This body, like maneuvering this body, taking this body places, going through all of the states of being, going through the mental processes, going through the experiences. It is not easy. By no means is it easy. It's a challenge, everyday challenge. And it's a choice, right? It's also a choice. How do we choose to engage our life? And even making those choices are sometimes not easy. They're complex, they're complicated, they're hard, right? So being human is not an easy task at all. So coming to this planet, like even me, I'm like, where am I? Please send me back. But I know that that's not the case, that I have this thing I got to get done. I have a purpose. I have a mission, right? I'm on a mission. And I got to get this mission accomplished before I can actually go and be in peace completely. And it's funny because I could say, well, I don't want to engage. I want to check out of the world. Sometimes that's what our emotional states of being do to us. We're like, we don't want to share it. We're going to be made fun of. We're going to be shamed. No one's going to understand us. We're going to be looked at though we're not worthy enough. We're going to be ostracized. We're going to be whatever it is. And then we just hide out, right? And we don't want to engage in the game of life. And we just say, you know what? I'm not going to play the game. And I could do that, right? Very easily. Hey, Scott, good morning. I could very, very easily say, you know what? I'm done. I check out. I don't want to play the life game. I'm over it. I'll just play my own game in my own room, all by myself, without anybody. Now, I'm alone a lot. And the way that I play the game, right, is through communication this way, to leave a legacy in engagement with my family and friends. But there's a lot, right? The game of life is a lot. And there's even a game called the Game of Life. I don't know if you guys have all played that Game of Life. It's actually, we're playing a game, really. I mean, when you think about it. And there's choices, and it's like the choices that we make, right, depending on how we want to engage certain situations, are going to have specific outcomes. So it's like, okay, you can move 5 steps forward. And sometimes we do that. We'll go 5 steps forward, and then we'll take 20 steps backward. And we're like, damn it, what did I just do? I went forward, and now I'm backward. And now I have to figure out how to get 15 steps forward to get back where I was before. Now I'm behind. So again, playing the game is hard. Now we could check out, and I could check out, and everyone could check out and say, I'm not going to play. But what fun is that? Aren't we here to have fun with it? Well, it's a roller coaster ride. It is one crazy roller coaster. And I got my beautiful obsidian necklace, just so you know, yesterday. Okay, so ignoring, stopping, and shaming or punishing emotions are the three parenting styles that most often result in emotional illiteracy in children. Okay, shaming, stopping, or punishing. Our culture has a whole pro pascates pro propagates a whole propagates this. I can't read this word. I don't know what I'm doing. Sorry about that. Propagates just this kind of illiteracy. In an emotion phobic culture, most of us don't know how to listen very well to emotional pain for the simple reason that we have never been taught to doing so is a good thing, or how to do it. In school, about all we learned about negative emotions is that displaying them is bad conduct. We're taught little of what these emotions are and how they work. In religious institutions, we're often taught that fear, despair, and anger is a sign of sin or insufficient faith. So we've made it wrong, as you know. Those of you, how many of you guys went to Catholic school? I did not. I know my mother did. And she said that they were very kind. They would smack you. Now they can't, right? Obviously. They'll get put in jail for that. But if you had any kind of emotional, so the emotional literacy wasn't there, you'd get put in the corner for bad punishment. Like, that's kind of what I remember happening to kids who were bad, or sent to the principal's office. Or something was wrong, or you needed counseling. Only the counselors never really practiced what they preached, so I never wanted to be around a counselor that didn't do what they said they were going to do. It's funny, because, like, I was one of those kids, and even still today, it's like, if someone's going to give me advice, please follow your own, or don't tell me. Good morning, Adan. How are you? Right? Because people will tell you what they think you should or could or would or whatever do, and then they're not doing anything that they're telling you. And I'm like, what? No, you don't get to tell me if you don't do it yourself, please. Like, you go do it. And then show me that it works, and then maybe I'll do it. I mean, and that's just my temperament. It's who I am as an individual. And as a kid, right? So, good morning, Doreen. How are you? I haven't seen you in a while. So, it would be like practice what you preach kind of thing, right? So, as kids, when we were in school and you exhibited bad behavior, quote unquote, bad behavior, or some kind of emotional trauma, it was like, oh, you must see the counselor. You know, it's kind of funny because I feel like I always ended up counseling the counselors. Like, how did we get on me? Oh, okay, that's why. Because everybody's human and we all have issues and everybody wants to be listened to and heard. That's why. So, when people stop, shame, or punish, so remember that. And that's why we pay people to listen to us, because we don't want to be stopped in our tracks. But we've been stopped in our tracks to experience this emotional pain. So, when you go to your counselor, really all you're getting to do is really express the pain and the sorrow that's internally there. And you're paying a pretty penny to go talk to somebody about the problems that you have. Okay, so that's just it. It's just you need someone to listen. Okay, similarly, in the populist spiritual renaissance of recent years, bad feelings are sometimes considered a hindrance, an obstacle to spiritual development. The spiritual journey is seen as an airy, light-bearing bypass of painful, on-the-ground darkness. Through the culture of popular psychology, though the culture of popular psychology appears to celebrate or even overindulge being in touch with the feelings, the focus here is often on letting go of bad feelings, not on listening to and learning from them. What is missing is a sense that emotions, whether we call them positive or negative, are there for a reason and have something to teach us. We have lessons in this, and you guys, I think you guys get it. There's lessons in feeling your feelings. There's lessons in going through the sadness, the crying, the darkness, the whatever, the negative, all of those things. There are lessons to be learned there. Those lessons, right, are some of the most powerful lessons that we can go through if you allow yourself to go through it fully. There was somebody, a lady who came on here yesterday. I think her name was Vicky on the podcast. And she talked about it. She said, look, I literally was depressed and it's a choice. But she probably is minimizing the fact that she did some work to get there. It didn't just happen overnight. She was probably very sad for a long time, or depressed or whatever. And finally, she had reached probably her bottom of the bottom pit to make that change. Really, transformation. So someone changing doesn't happen overnight. It takes years to change, right? Unless someone hits rock bottom. That means everything is ripped from them. If everything is taken and they're homeless, on the street, at their wits' end, nothing, then a great transformation can happen. But what happens, right, people don't change when they're comfortable. If someone's comfortable, it is typically harder to change and transform an individual when they're in their comfort zone. Change and transformation happens when you're uncomfortable. It's like in other words, it's like this. You can put a pot of stew on the stove and not turn on the heat. And it's not going to cook. Nothing's going to change. It's comfortable. It's sitting out in cozy water. The transformation doesn't happen until you put the fire to it. Put the fire to it and it starts to boil. Things start to shift and change. That's what those dark emotions do. They sort of boil the pot for us. They stir up the stew. They give us a new taste and recipe. It's the same ingredients, but it tastes a little different because now we've put heat to it. The heat being the emotional states of being that we go through. So people don't just change when they're comfortable. Comfort doesn't bring change. It's the discomfort that brings the change. And any spiritual alchemist will understand this, right? Anybody who goes through the process understands that when you're uncomfortable, a great transformation is happening. When you're sitting in comfort, nothing is happening. There's no change happening because you're comfortable. So, and I think even Jesus talks about the lukewarm and saying that the lukewarm, it's worse to be lukewarm, right, than to even be in fear or to even be in anger, frustration, or even to be in the deep, darkest depths of despair. Why? Because the lukewarm are the comfortable, and there's no change in being comfortable. So my life is a series of discomforts. And this is so true. My life is a series of discomforts. But I am not afraid of the discomfort. Why? Because I know that in order for me to change, in order for me to become a better person, I have to experience those discomforts and I have to face them. And when I face the discomforts and I go through the discomforts, I blossom and I grow into something. It's like a butterfly. Like, I didn't even realize the chrysalis or whatever it's called where they go through, they become like goopy stuff until they form into the butterfly. But that transformation process is changing. It's like a diamond. It's like there's pressure and fire and this great pressure. You can't get a diamond without pressure and heat and craziness happening. If the coal just sat there comfortable without any pressure or fire, it just wouldn't change. It would just stay cold. Our emotions, okay? Our emotions are the fire that fuels the transformation to happen into diamonds. We have to go through that in order to change and transform. So it's a choice, right? You can stay lukewarm, but again, they talk about the lukewarm. The lukewarm get nowhere. And people wonder why they're not creating the life that they want to create. And that's why the life that they want to create happens when the discomfort is there, when the uneasy is there, when we're allowing ourselves to go through these darker spaces, to understand, to clean out, to go through the process of why do I continue to make these choices that lead me down a path of despair or sadness or hurt or pain. But I'm going to look at it. I'm going to look at this and I'm going to examine it, and I'm truly going to look at it. And I'm going to allow myself to go through the pain and the sorrow. Because if I don't, nothing will change. It'll stay the same because you just want to be comfortable. Is there anything wrong in the comfort? No, but there's no growth or transformation or change. You're going to create the same life over and over and over again. That's what happens. That's why our patterns repeat themselves, and that's why people continue to get the same results in their life over and over and over again. Change doesn't happen until we face our deepest emotional craziness in the subconscious mind. So the victory of the psychopharmacology that produced the Prozac revolution as a culture's cure for despair has contributed its share to the conquest of pain by any means necessary. In the medicine of psychiatry, the prevailing message is, if it hurts, medicate it. As well, we should see in later chapters, the pharmaceutical answer to depression has been both boon and a bane, while offering many patients an effective remedy for conditions that disabling when severe. The new antidepressants have also been a part of the increasing tendency to equate the absence of painful emotions with sound mental health. As a result, it's become increasingly impossible to attribute despair to anything but a drop in serotonin levels or a biochemical blip that can be managed or obliterated through brain-altering chemicals. Increasingly, we are conditioned to a low threshold of tolerance to any bad feelings, but for any kind of information that comes from 10-second sound bites, or arrive on a computer screen as nanoseconds, or dazzle us with dizzying fast-cut images that move with a telescopic frenzy. The shadow side of information revolution, the techno toy craze, the pop culture visual values is lowering of our capacity for sustained mindful listening to ourselves and each other and to the earth itself. So we ourselves have a low tolerance for pain, a low tolerance for listening, a low tolerance for engaging in people. Now, this is important, and this is one thing I loved about my master's program, our tolerance for pain and suffering. The more that we allow ourselves to go through the pain and suffering, the greater the tolerance that we have, meaning we can regulate our sadness better when we have a higher tolerance, our despair, our grief, our anger. The self-regulation comes from being alone and allowing ourselves to go through the experience of the pain. So this is something that I'm well practiced at. I allow myself to go through the entire experience, but my tolerance, and because I've allowed myself to do this, my tolerance for pain and suffering has gone up, meaning that I'm more stable or regulated in my emotional states of being. It takes a lot for me to be mad a lot. I don't just get mad and throw anger all over the place for no reason. It takes a lot for me to get to a place where I'm angry or frustrated. Right? It's not that it's not warranted. Like when I become so irate or angry or frustrated, there is a whole lot of reason behind it. There's a whole lot of evidence and facts and things that have happened that have led me to that point. But this self-regulation, because I'm very forgiving, I'm very, okay, let me look at this, and then my tolerance gets to a point and then a boundary is set. And when that boundary is set, I don't waver in it. That boundary gets set and that's that. Why? Because I literally understand that individuals don't change, and there's certain energies that just because, look, here's the deal. People don't change, that's okay. They don't have to. I just don't have to be around it. That's the way it is. And so the tolerance levels of the regulations, they get higher and higher. You're able to understand more and more, and you're able to maintain and regulate the emotional states of being. But you have to be able to go through it. So sometimes your tolerance is low, and here's the deal. In the chemical reactions in our brain, we can actually build this up. Even if it's not, our tolerance is low and we don't know how to regulate emotional states of being, we can build it up without taking medication. You don't need medication to build tolerance. You just need go through the experience. So my state of being is pretty regular. If you knew me as a person, I'm stable like this. And then every once in a while, if I'm sad, I'll have a dip. But then I come back to regulating. It doesn't last forever. I don't stay depressed forever. I mean, I get depressed, I get sad, but I don't stay there forever because my tolerance is high. And then I just go back to that steady tranquility, right? And here, we'll just say a person for anger for me. This is literally what it looks like. It would be a flat line like this with the anger. Okay? It'll be flat forever until I reach my tolerance level. Once the tolerance level is peaked, I go shoom. And then I come back down to regulation. And it's like, what did I learn in the low of the depression or the peak of anger? And boundaries then get set. I'm not going to tolerate that. You've passed my tolerance level. Sorry. Done. So, and it's listening to the internal process. So asking yourself, how regulated are you in your emotional states of being? If it feels like it's not regulated, it's probably because you're not allowing yourself to go through that emotional state of being. You're shutting it out. In short, if listening to pain is necessary skill for emotional alchemy, it's not one we cultivate in a fast-moving, feel-good, throwaway culture. From almost every standpoint, our culture teaches us not to listen. We stop listening to our emotional states of being. That internal dialogue, that voice of reason is there for purpose. Listen to yourself. Listen to yourself. So here's how I'll leave today. Listen to yourself. Just listen, just take a moment. It's almost hard to do it, but sit by yourself and listen to your internal dialogue. What is it telling you? What is it saying to you? What does that voice tell you in your head? So ask yourself those things. What is my voice saying? What am I talking about? And then start to really listen and just be an observer. Don't judge it. Don't make it wrong. Don't just let it be. Let those thoughts go through and start to really observe them, and you'll start to go like, what the hell? What kind of weird, wonky stuff am I thinking, right? That internal dialogue is critical. it helps to regulate. And you have these voices that'll be like, well, that's not nice, or this is nice, or a lot of people talk to themselves very negatively. I've heard a lot of people say, you're dumb, that was dumb. I'm like, oh, you're not nice to yourself. Be nice to yourself. Be kind to yourself. And when you learn to regulate your emotional states of being and your tolerance levels go up, you set boundaries, and those boundaries become healthy boundaries for you. Here's my boundary. It's just a boundary. Doesn't make you right, doesn't make you wrong. Just means that there's a boundary, and it's to protect my own well-being. Okay? So there you have it. Listening to your personal dialogue, build your tolerance, learn, if you choose, totally up to you, to self-regulate your emotional states of being. Don't make them wrong. Just learn to build tolerance for them. Okay? Awesome. So there you have it. I love you guys. Have the, hey PBG, hey, I didn't even say good morning. Pezzy, Hannah, Samuel, Valerie, I don't know if you guys are still on here. IMAC, Foggy, PBG, who else we got on here? And everybody who was on Facebook. Good morning. And thank you guys. I have 10,000 downloads, but I just want to say thank you to the people who get on here. And not thank you for myself. Thank you for you. Because literally, this is about you showing up for yourself. I tell my stories, but really in hopes to help you in your life. And maybe you can say, oh yeah, I can relate to that, and it's helped me in my life in some way. But I just want to say thank you guys, and thank you guys for showing up for yourself. Like, you guys matter, you're enough, and I'm just here to add value in any way that I can. So I love you guys so much. Have a most fantastical day. And I call that badge, that 10,000 badge, I call it God's badge. Belongs to God, not me, right? Because this is all about God and love. And so that badge is a badge of honor for God. So 10,000 downloads for God. Yay. Go God. Congratulations. I get to see God rolling inside. Whatever. Okay, so there you have it. I love you guys. Have a great day. And of course, I will be seeing y'all tomorrow.